What is going on, guys? Luke here today, and I keep getting asked about a market crash, a recession, the Fed, should just sell everything and just buy puts, and a bunch of other stuff like that. So in response to all that, I'm going to play a video for you that I released to my group about a month or so ago about all this. And remember, if you want to join the group and get videos like this, plus live Q&As and 4 free courses and a ton more, check out the pinned comment down below. I think the sale actually ends tomorrow or something like that, I believe. But this video walks you through every step of what actually happened over 20 years with the stock that I personally own during the past 2 crashes and multiple corrections. I go step by step and cover it all. The price action, the media narrative at the time, what the experts were saying, what the Fed was doing, all of that stuff. And I'm sorry it's kind of long, but it's necessary to get all that information in. I just felt in times like this video would really help a lot of you all out there too, so I wanted to put it out here on YouTube for you guys here as it applies today. So at least consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. All right, enough of me talking. I'm sorry, but I hope this is helpful and let's get this thing started. Well, what is going on out there, guys? I just wanted to drop a video and explain why I don't care about a market crash and give you a real example that illustrates to me why it has proven right to not fear a crash, but actually embrace it. Now, this isn't theories. This isn't a bunch of strung together if-then kind of things like you're seeing right now that are encouraging you to run or not to buy or buy gold or whatever. Just the facts of what happened to me every step of the way through 2 crashes and multiple corrections. Now, fair warning, it's going to be a bit long, but it shows you why I feel the way I feel step by step. All right, so let's look at Apple stock. And before you get started, that Apple isn't fair. It's the biggest of the big stocks. You know, it's the big dog right now. When I bought after the tech crash, it wasn't even close to being the beast that it is right now. And a lot of people, even large investors, didn't believe in Apple for the longest time. I mean, Warren Buffett bought it almost a decade after I did for reference. So I will walk you through the years I have owned it and tell you exactly what the narrative was before, during, and after crashes and corrections. And a lot of it is going to sound very familiar to what you are hearing today. I'll also show you exactly what you're missing out on by always listening to the narrative. So let's jump into this. And the first thing to keep in mind is Apple has split multiple times. So this is not the actual price that I bought Apple at. I wish it was, but it's not the actual price. But it's the price adjusted for the splits that have happened over the years. So we're just going to leave it like this and kind of walk through it from here. So you see right there at the height of the tech bubble is at $1.21. And then it crashed like all other tech stocks did. And I bought it in late 2002 for around 30 cents adjusted for the split. And it did nothing except go down and stagnate for more than a year. The narrative at the time after the bubble popped was that tech stocks were trash and anything related to the tech, internet were all just a fad in the end. It was just, one of those fad things and it was going to go away. We were going back to old school legacy businesses. And the noise specifically around Apple was that they were a niche player in the home computers and nobody will have a computer at their house. So it really was just a niche within a niche. Bottom line, I continued to invest. As Apple and tech started to run in 2004, once again, the noise is that tech and Apple are entering into a bubble once again, and it was going to crash again real soon. Now remember, this is 2004, this is not 2008 and 2009. And if I had listened to them from the start and not invested at all, I missed out on an 8x of my money in just 3 years. But guess what? It got even better than that because it continued to rise, as you can see, all the way until we had the financial crisis in 2008, where my gains topped out at a 24x. Now during this crash, the entire financial system completely melted down. And the Fed back then did not have the power it has now. The Fed has so much power now because during this time, they had to ask Congress to do certain things. And as we all know, politicians almost always screw it away completely on both sides. Even with this crash, if I had listened back in 2002 and 2003 to the crash narrative and not invested, I would have still missed out on 1,000% gain at the bottom. And I mean, that's after it crashed down, I still would have been up 1,000%. I did initially buy the dip and I regret that, but I bought later in 2009 because the iPhone released in 2007 and was a smash, game-changing hit, so the valuation was just too stupid to ignore. But the noise at the time when I was buying was it was going to get a lot worse, which caused me to hesitate and miss the great prices in early 2009. The overall narrative was the Fed doesn't know what it's doing and the recession will get worse and maybe it's going to turn into a depression. That was what the narrative was at the time, all the time. And of course, that didn't happen, so the prevailing narrative was wrong again, and if I had listened, I would have missed out once again. Then we had the taper tantrum in 2013. Basically, the Fed started to pull the support that they gave us during the financial crisis, and the market reacted poorly. While everything was falling, the narrative was we were going to have a double dip recession because they pulled the support and the Fed doesn't know what they are doing. Looks like another buying opportunity to me, and we did pretty well. And once again, the narrative was completely wrong, and the opportunity to buy at a nice discount was there. And if you listen to the narrative, you missed out on doubling your money in around 2 years before the next crisis hit. So in 2015, the Fed started raising rates, and then in the beginning of 2016, the market had its worst start ever. The narrative was with the China stock market crashing and Chinese currency getting devalued, and Greece basically defaulting on its debt, and the Brexit vote taking place, and the US was just basically the next to collapse because the Fed didn't know what they were doing, and we were raising rates then when we shouldn't have been. Looks like that bad start that everybody thought was going to get worse was actually the bottom of another bull run. And once again, the narrative was wrong for like the 4th or 5th straight time, and you missed out on another 300% move if you had listened. Literally so far, fortunes are being made over and over again, but the narrative is causing some people to miss out if they listen. Oh, but wait, it keeps getting better. Just 2 years later in 2018, we had yet another crisis. The Fed started raising rates again, and we were in a trade war with China. And once again, this same narrative started that the Fed was going to push us into a recession again because they didn't know what they were doing, and the US trade war was going to make that recession worse. And once again, the narrative was completely wrong, and if you had stayed away and not bought the dip, you missed out on doubling your money once again in just under 2 years until we had the next crisis. So we had the virus shut down the world's economy and cratered everything. And that makes perfect sense. I was scrambling, everyone was, but the moment the Fed stepped in and said they would backstop everything, the floor was set that it wouldn't go to zero, which was honestly the narrative at the time. Then after everyone figured out the Fed was going to support the market and that it's actually going to work, the narrative for the next 2 years up to today was switched from the market won't go to zero, but the Fed doesn't know what they're doing anyways, and politicians don't know what they're doing either. Then it switched to the market is going to go down due to the election and all the craziness around the election. Then it was hyperinflation, which seems to kind of come and go again, was going to wreck the entire economy. Then there seems to always be another variant that will take us back down. And then today it's the Fed is tapering and doesn't know what it's doing, or it's the government's pumping out too much money. One of those narratives we just talked about has always been talked about for the past 2 years. And if you had listened to the narrative and continued listening over these past 2 years, you missed out on another 250% gain or so. The reality is a $2,000 investment held through all of this, not adding on the dips, not doing anything except hold, made you a millionaire. And if you added on the dips or just DCA'd over that whole time frame, I'm not talking about adding $100,000 here and $100,000 there, not even close to numbers like that. But if you just added consistently, you have a mid 7-figure. But if you listen to the narrative, you missed out on every good opportunity. Every single one you would have missed out on. And by the way, as you can see, the narrative's track record is exactly 0% correct. Now sure, we saw dips, but the narrative was wrong every time, and what everybody was fearful of the most did not happen. Now I already hear the criticism that this was the past, and although it has proven true over the past 20 years, this time it's different. Well, guess what? That's the same statement that was made at every narrative we just discussed over the past 20 years, and it hasn't come true yet. They always say, this time it's different. Now, each time it looked different, had different catalysts or triggers, and moved on a different timeline. But the end result was always the same, and it was never actually that different. Investors that are prepared, hold great stocks, and buy more great stocks at undervalued prices during the downturns always win over the long run. So let me know in the live Q&A or over in the Discord if you have any questions, and I will get you guys the answers, and you guys have a great day.